Good evening, everyone, and welcome to your Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas full commission meeting and also the planning and zoning and regular session. Today is July 27th, 2023. I'm Mayor Tyrone Garner. Before I call this meeting to order, I want to announce that some commissioners, staff, and the public are attending remotely via Zoom, by phone, or on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak. And depending on the issue, please make sure that you provide your address so that the public that is observing knows exactly who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and its current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General's office. I will now call this meeting into order. Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Roll call. Kane.
Here.
Markley. Stites.
Here.
David.
Here.
Bynum.
Here.
Burrows.
Here.
Townsend.
Here.
McKiernan.
Here.
Ramirez.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Garner.
Here. Thank you, clerk. Tonight, we're going to have an invocation given by Stella Ruiz of the Oak Grove Christian Church, followed immediately by the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll ask everyone to please stand.
Good evening. Will you join me in prayer? Wise and loving Creator, first, we thank you for your blessings and your presence here in this place. May this evening's agenda be fruitful and for the common good of everyone. May unity and truly listening to one another be the outcome. Bless our county with your protection and divine path. Grant our leaders the wisdom to act for justice and serve with knowledge and help for direction. And Lord, may we be mindful and be aware of the heat, the dangerous heat. And we are asking, Lord, to be mindful of this, whether it be a family member, a neighbor, or a stranger. In your precious name we pray, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor Ruiz, for that invocation. Clerk, are there any revisions to tonight's agenda?
Sir, there were no official changes to tonight's agenda per se, but I would like to note that we are moving the three proclamations from the mayor's agenda to be read first before advancing through tonight's planning and zoning items.
Thank you, Clerk. If you can go ahead with the mayor's agenda, that would be valuable.
Proclamation, Black Entrepreneurship Week. Now, therefore, I, Tyrone Garner, Mayor, CEO of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County and Kansas City, Kansas, do hereby proclaim August 1 through 5, 2023 as a Black Entrepreneurship Week in Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, and urge all citizens to recognize Black Entrepreneurship Week in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and seal of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. Proclamation, Community Care Clinics Week. Now, therefore, I, Tyrone Garner, Mayor, CEO of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County and Kansas City, Kansas, do hereby proclaim August 7th through 11th, 2023 as Community Care Clinics Week in Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, and urge all citizens to recognize Community Care Clinics Week in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and seal the Unified Government of Wyandotte County and Kansas City, Kansas. National Night Out. Now, therefore, I, Tyrone Garner, Mayor, CEO of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County and Kansas City, Kansas, do hereby proclaim August 1st, 2023 is National Night Out in Wyandotte County and Kansas City, Kansas, and call upon all residents to join the National Association of Town Watch in supporting the 40th National Night Out in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and seal the Unified Government of Wyandotte County and Kansas City, Kansas.
Thank you, Clerk, for those proclamations, and congratulations to those receiving them. We are now going to transition from the mayor's agenda to the planning and zoning portion of our meeting. We have two distinct parts to our meeting. The planning and zoning portion will be handled first, followed by the rest of the regular commission meeting. I'll ask the clerk to read the statement required by state law governing the planning and zoning portion of our meeting, followed by the items on the planning and zoning consent agenda. Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. We would like to welcome all present to this meeting of the Unified Government Commission. Members of the commission are Mayor, CEO Tyrone Garner, Commissioner Melissa Bynum, at-large District 1, Commissioner Tom Burrows, at-large District 2, Commissioner Gail Townsend, District 1, Commissioner Brian McKiernan, District 2, Commissioner Christian Ramirez, District 3, Commissioner Harold Johnson, District 4, Commissioner Mike Kane, District 5, Commissioner Angela Markley, District 6, Commissioner Chuck Stites, District 7, and Commissioner Andrew Davis, District 8. As each petition is called, all persons for or against will be given the opportunity to express their views. If this is the first time that a particular petition has been before the commission has three options. 1, it can approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission with 6 votes. 2, it can override the Planning Commission's recommendation, but it would take 8 votes to override. 3, it can return the matter to the Planning Commission for further consideration together with a statement specifying the reasons for the referral back to the Planning Commission. The consent agenda is the first part of the planning and zoning agenda. Items on the consent agenda have received a unanimous vote of recommendation by the Planning Commission. Unless there is a request to set aside an item from the consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the public, the Unified Government Commission, or others, then the Planning Commission's recommendation on all the items on the consent agenda will be adopted by the Unified Government Commission at one time. I will read the list of agenda items on the consent agenda, and when I have completed the list, the mayor will ask if there are any requests to set aside an item on the consent agenda. This is your time to come to the microphone and provide the agenda item to be set aside if you do not agree with the Planning Commission's recommendation. If you're joining us virtually, this is your time to raise your hand, and once acknowledged, provide the agenda item to be set aside. If you contacted the UG Clerk's office, that item will be set aside by the UG Clerk on your behalf. If an item is set aside, the matter will be discussed and voted on separately. All items not set aside will be approved with the Planning Commission's recommendation. We appreciate the attendance of those here this evening, and we recognize the importance of each petition. We would, however, remind you that there are a number of items on the agenda, and we would appreciate your efforts to make your remarks as concise as possible. We ask that anyone with a cell phone, please turn them off or switch them to non-audio so you will not disturb the meeting. If joining us virtually by phone, we ask that you mute your phone when not speaking to avoid background noise so you will not disturb the meeting. Once the petitioners make their presentation, anyone for or against will be allowed the maximum 3 minutes to state their view. As you come to the microphone, please state your name and city for the record if attending in person. This is your time to raise your hand if you're joining us virtually. When your name is called, please state your name and city for the record as well. The mayor and commission are required to disclose contacts with proponents or opponents on any item on the planning and zoning agenda. At this time, does any member of the commission wish to disclose any contact with proponents or opponents on any item on tonight's agenda?
Okay, Commissioner Bynum has disclosures.
Mayor, thank you. I've heard from opponents of item 8B1 SP 2023-020.
Thank you. Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Communication opposition with SP 2023-020.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner McKiernan.
Thank you, Mayor. Same item as Commissioner Bynum and Ramirez.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Markley. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stites.
Same one, 2023-20.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kane.
Same one.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Davis.
Same one.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Johnson.
Same, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other disclosures from the commission? Anyone virtually, clerk?
Seeing none.
Okay, if you could read the consent agenda items.
Thank you, sir. I will now read the items on tonight's P and Z consent agenda. Change of zone application COZ 2023-005. Andrea Weishbout with ALC. Change of zone from R1 Single Family District to AG Agricultural District to utilize the property for agricultural uses and to keep livestock at 5744 Taromie Avenue. Recommended for approval. COZ 2023-014 Christopher E. Hanlon. Change of zone from R1 Single Family District to AG Agricultural District for 30 chickens, bees, and farm at 3000 South 74th Street. Recommended for approval. COZ 2023-016 Rhiannon Caballero. Change of zone from R1 Single Family District to AG Agricultural District for chickens in a garden at 3542 North 51st Street. Recommended for approval. Special use permit applications, SP 2023-027 Joshua A. Rose, special use permit for a short-term rental at 4610 Lloyd Street, recommended for approval for 1 year. SP 2023-028 Michael Geckes, renewal of a special use permit for a short-term rental at 2716 North 119th Street, recommended for approval for 5 years. SP 2023-029, Abdul Mazid with A Plus Auto Sales. Renewal of a special use permit for used car dealership at 1010 Merriam Lane, recommended for approval for 5 years. SP 2023-031, Alexandra Sales, special use permit for a short-term rental at 2602 North 107th Terrace, recommended for approval for 1 year. SP 2023-032, Tristan Perkins, special use permit for a short-term rental at 1945 Lawrence Court, recommended for approval for 1 year. SP 2023-033, Sanjeev and Rebecca Samuel, special use permit for a short-term rental at 4016 Springfield Street, recommended for approval for 1 year. SP 2023-035, Mary Malott and Robin Beebe, special use permit for a short-term rental at 3716 Springfield Street, recommended for approval for 1 year. Plan review application, PR 2023-020, Jose Paz with WTF LLC. Preliminary plan review for townhomes at 825 Parallel Avenue, recommended for approval. Master plan amendment applications, MPL 2023-009, Jose Paz with WTF LLC, a master plan amendment from Parks and Open Space to lower medium density residential at 825 Parallel Avenue, recommended for approval. Miscellaneous ordinances, 1, an ordinance rezoning property at 13400 Donahue Road from AG Agricultural District to AG Agricultural District, recommended for approval. An ordinance rezoning property at 4403 Rainbow Boulevard from R1B Single Family District to RP4 Planned Garden Apartment District, recommended for approval. 3, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit for continuation of a short-term rental at 749 Locust Avenue, recommended for approval. 4, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit for a commercial retail space with a firearm training facility at shooting range at 10,000 France Family Drive, recommended for approval. 5, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit for an event space with offices at 6300 Parallel Parkway, recommended for approval. An ordinance authorizing a special use permit to continue to operate a drinking establishment with live entertainment at 508 Kansas Avenue, recommended for approval. And 7, an ordinance vacating right of way at 1327 State Avenue, recommended for approval. That represents all the items on tonight's planning and zoning consent agenda, Mayor.
Thank you, Clerk. Do any members of the commission, the county administrator, the public wish to set aside any item on the planning and zoning consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all items on the planning and zoning consent agenda will be voted on by one vote to follow the recommendation of the planning commission. I'll ask if anyone is in attendance who would like to set an item aside. Clerk, is there anyone joining us virtually that would like to set aside?
Seeing none, sir.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the planning and zoning consent agenda.
Move all items as submitted for approval.
Davis, second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk roll call.
Roll call, Kane. Barkley.
Aye.
Stites. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend. Commissioner Townsend. McKiernan.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
Thank you. This takes us next to our planning and zoning non-consent agenda. Clerk, could you read the first item?
Planning and zoning non-consent agenda, change of zone application COZ 2023-009 Austin Thompson with AOC. Change of zone from R1 Single Family District to AG Agricultural District to raise fowl at 8910 Osage Avenue. Recommended for denial at a vote of 5-2.
Thank you. I'll ask the applicant, our representative, who may be present to present the application.
Mayor, I was gonna ask if we could do a quick sound check because Commissioner Townsend is texting me and she is here online. But we weren't able to hear her. So I don't know if we can kind of do a little test and see if we can get her to be able to come through.
Clerk, you
Commissioner,
wanna-
I don't know if you
wanna
can
see
hear
if we
us, but if you can, say
Commissioner
something.
Townsend, if you can hear us, just say yes. You need to unmute. Yeah, Commissioner Townsend, you're still muted.
We'll take a 5-minute recess. We want to make sure that Commissioner Townsend is represented in her questions and votes. And so we'll take a 5-minute recess to give IT a chance to work on this issue. So. Test.
Yeah, she can call him. She can call him.
That's what I. Clarify that.
I. No, it is.
One more time.
I.
There we go. We got you. Okay. All right.
Figure it out.
Thank you, public. We are back in session. Again, I'll ask the applicant or representative to present the application on the item that was just presented.
You were going to do the first.
I will now open the public hearing and ask the clerk if any notifications were received from the public who wish to express their comments in favor of the item.
No comments were received by the clerk, sir.
Is there anyone present who would like to speak in favor of this item?
Seeing none here, but we do have one hand raised online.
That's the representative for the case.
You can proceed.
Nobody else.
Is there a hand raised, clerk, online?
Gunnar, does that look like the applicant or is that?
Mr. Elliott is the applicant for Atlas.
Yeah, no others, sir, just the applicant.
Okay. I'll allow the backups. It doesn't looks like we may be having some technical difficulties. And we'll ask the applicant to, our representative to present the application. Or,
Can you hear me?
yes.
Yes, sir.
This is Alex Elliott with Atlas Line Consulting.
Yeah, please state your name and address for the record.
Alex Elliott, 14500 Parallel Road, Unit R, Baser, Kansas. Yes, so this was recommended for denial by the Planning Commission. Believe the main reason cited for this was concerns about the lot size. The commission said that it barely meets the 5 acre minimum, and there were some questions raised by neighbors on the actual size of the lot. I'd like to remind everyone that this is a platted lot, and the plat states that it's 5.6 acres, so it's well above the 5 acre minimum. There were other issues raised about vehicles present on site. The owner has assured us that once all construction activities for the recently built home are completed, all the vehicles will be removed. Well, not all of them, but the majority of them will be removed. And there were also concerns raised with possibility of chickens already being present on site. They have assured us that there are none. To our knowledge, there are none. That's all I have.
Thank you. This takes us back to the public hearing. Again, is there anyone present who would like to speak in favor of this item?
Seeing none.
Is there anyone joining us virtually, clerk, who would like to speak in favor of this item?
Seeing none, sir.
Are there, clerk, any notifications that you received from the public who wish to express their comments in opposition of this item?
No notifications were received by the clerk.
Is there anyone present who would like to speak in opposition of this item?
Seeing one.
Is there anyone joining us virtually?
Seeing one, ma'am, if you could approach.
If you would come forward to the podium and state your name and address for record.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Mary Martin. I live at 804 South 89th Street. I'm right next door to 8910 Osage. Me and other neighbors, one of them that has adjacent property is from St. Louis, but they have the property, they pay their taxes on the backside of the 8910 are all opposed to this property being agricultural. My family is the one that talked about the property in 5 acres. The reason being that we pulled their property site survey. We also pulled our property site survey and the lady that sold them the property survey. And those numbers are not consistent. So I came here July the 10th saying that those numbers, those surveys need to be looked at. And from what I'm getting yesterday from the Department of Planning and Urban Design, they're saying that there's a discrepancy in the numbers clearly from the survey that they submitted. So they can say that their plot is 5 acres, but they can't legally say it's 5 acres because there's discrepancy in the numbers. There's discrepancy in the paperwork that they filed with the UG. So
We have
until,
1 minute remaining.
I'm sorry, oh, thank you. We submitted all that information to the department director. We're very clear with that. We stand on that. The man that is talking now in supporting this, he doesn't know what's going on there. He doesn't live around there. There have been chickens from day one when they moved on that site. There's been watchdogs that are on that site. There's been security on that site that has never left that site since they have moved into that site. So we don't know what they're doing, but we think it's more than chickens. So I stand today as I stood July the 10th, asking that you deny this until planning and urban design can really come up and say that this property meets those guidelines to be agricultural. And then
Your time has
also,
expired.
can I get additional 5 minutes
There's-
or just 2 minutes?
Mayor, motion to provide 2 more minutes.
Proceed.
I would like the commission to make a motion for me. Somebody in the commission fill me and make a motion in this matter that tells planning and urban design that because my family has been law-abiding, tax-paying citizens of Wyandotte County for over 60 years on our property, that planning and urban design sends us a letter to state why we have a fence that 8910 put on our property, took our property and said it was theirs, said that there was an error on our survey, can't prove it, just saying it. We have no due process. They allowed the fence to be placed, which is still there. I think that's abominable. They're denying our constitutional rights in terms of due process. And I think that, and I blame the planning and urban design because they're the ones who allowed 8910 to do all this. I think that's unacceptable. And somebody from the commission needs to make a motion to hear me and say that they need a letter if they think they're so right on taking our land. They didn't rebate any taxes to us, they just took it. Even though we've been paying consistently, we're not at default. They couldn't take our land, but they did by way of planning and urban design. So I'm just asking somebody to make a motion on our behalf. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to the item that's in the audience?
Seeing none.
Clerk, is there anyone joining us virtually who would like to speak in opposition to this item?
Seeing none, sir.
I will now close the public hearing. Give the opportunity for petitioner to make some closing comments. Clerk, can you try and raise the petitioner?
Mr. Elliott, are you there?
Say again, sorry.
Sir, if you want to do any closing remarks, now's your time.
I would just like to say, as was mentioned previously, the plat that is currently filed with the county shows the acreage that it shows. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any members of the commission have any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for item A1, change of zone 2023-009. Commissioner Bynum,
Mayor, I would move for denial of the change of zone in accordance with the Planning and Zoning Board. My motion would be to uphold the recommendation from Planning and Zoning.
Davis second.
And I would request clarification on the yes versus the no on a motion like that.
council, I think the commissioners want clarification as to
I always need to know
the
if
yes or no.
Yes.
What that dictates for clarity.
yes is a vote to uphold the denial, correct? Okay,
Correct,
thank you.
based on how the motion was submitted.
So to be clear, there is a motion and a second with a motion for yes to uphold and support and sustain the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission. Is that correct?
Yes, it
Okay.
is from me.
Mr. Mayor, point of order, would you like staff comments on this case or no?
No. Commissioner Kane,
I would like staff comments.
okay.
Is it 5.6 acres?
Hold on just a second. We have a motion and a second. We have a request from staff and a request from Commissioner Kane for staff comments. And I believe Gunnar Han, who's our Director of Planning, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. Again, this case is being heard in consideration of a change of zone from R1 single family to AG. This is in the citywide comprehensive plan area in the Midtown South portion. Staff has received no letters of support. There has been opposition, as you heard earlier this evening as well, at the Planning Commission and at the neighborhood meeting and elsewhere. There are no notices of violation on this property. Staff disagrees with the Planning Commission's recommendation for now and recommends approval with conditions including a conservation plan in regards to the proposal to have chickens, to provide a UG driveway apron at that location, and that no commercial activity is allowed that's not related to agricultural use. Again, if the change of zone is approved without a special use permit. Excuse me. The property dispute that was discussed by the woman in opposition is related to, was reviewed by the county surveyor and staff with the materials provided by the opposition, our materials, as well as the applications materials. There is no issue with any of the surveys or plots that were submitted to us. The property dispute at hand is where that line between the property to the north and to the south lives in the real world. And that is determined by surveyors, not by the unified government. So the property is over 5 acres.
Thank you. Commissioner Bynum has a question.
I appreciate the explanation about the surveys. I do think that the request from the speaker is outside our purview, and I understand that, but could you go back? There's a aerial photograph. What is that?
So when the property's been vacant for a very long time. When the applicant acquired the property, I believe a little over a year plus ago, they proceeded with building the house that you see. As we have been informed by the applicant, but has also been a concern of the neighbors in opposition, is that that looks like it's more than someone living at a house. That looks like it's been there longer than it would take to be the construction workers working on the property. We've asked the applicant to respond to that. They did at the Planning Commission and said that those vehicles were related to the construction of the site, the ongoing construction of the site. We've also had reports from opposition as it relates to those specifically, that there's been ongoing traffic in and out of that site, and that there's a lot of traffic. So that is reflective of the staff's recommendation for the condition of approval, notifying the applicant that you can't have commercial activity on there without a special use permit.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Burrows had a question.
Thank you, Mayor. Gunnar, we're seeing a lot of land wanting to convert to ag to raise chickens. What is our criteria for considering the number of fowl that's that then determines if the land should be ag or if it's still a residential facility? I've got neighbors that had chickens and build a small coop in the back and they have 5 or 6 of them running around the neighborhood. And it seems like we get a lot of requests now for ag changes to raise fowl. So do we have a policy in place that says how many fowl can be raised on an acre or within a residential community or?
Thank you, Commissioner. Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. So any residentially zoned property can have up to 6 fowl without any permit. Anything over 6 fowl requires a special use permit unless you're over 5 acres. This property is over 5 acres. It is currently zoned R1, so it can have more than 6 fowl on the property today. The applicant has said that they wanted a change of zone because agricultural zoning allows more than 1 accessory structure. So they need more than 1 accessory structure to do the operation they want with their chickens. Whereas if it's a single family home in a residential, more typical residential neighborhood, if you will, that 1 accessory structure generally will work for them because all they need is a chicken coop.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you. Commissioner Ramirez has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple here, and I think it was already mentioned, and you have it stated here in the report from the Planning Commission. Does the applicant have any future plans to make it a commercial business or property?
That's not been indicated to us through the process, nor at any public hearings to the state. They say they want to have chickens, but they're talking about 20 to 30, as I understand it. The way that we handle the maximum of any livestock on a property as such is we work with the conservation district to develop a conservation plan, and based on that specific property, they'll tell what the carrying capacity is depending on what you want.
Okay. And my more of a comment, I say I agree with Commissioner Burrows. Feels like a lot is coming up before us of ag properties or wanting fowl. So maybe it's something we as a body, just how we did a density requirement for STRs, maybe we have a density requirement for fowl if that's something that is allowable by the state. Because I agree, it seems like a lot of people throughout the city and county are having a lot of fowl, and you do what you want, but at the same time, just making sure that there's not too many.
Sure.
So I think that's something we as a body can look at and staff.
Well, just real quick on that, as a follow-up, Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. It's staff's intention after the update of the citywide comprehensive plan. When that vision is established, that we go back and update the zoning code. We know that specifically urban agriculture is deficient in our zoning code, and there's a lot of tweaks that need to be made. So we can certainly add that to the list. And we have certainly heard through the Plan KCK and the land bank policy and other initiatives over the last couple of years that urban agriculture needs to be a higher priority. So we will be addressing that next year.
Thank you. Commissioner Markley.
Thanks, Mayor. I will reminisce for about 2 seconds and say those of us that have been here for a while remember when we didn't have the current chicken rule and we would have 2 or 3 per planning and zoning night. So we appreciate at least that we've gotten a little forward of that, but it's not my question. My question is, so if they don't get the change of zone tonight, they could get a special use permit for an accessory structure and still raise chickens. Am I right?
Not exactly. Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design. If they were denied this evening and wanted to continue with their proposal as is, they would have to get a variance to have more than 1 accessory structure on a property or figure out a way to shove all those chickens into 1,000 square feet of accessory structure. And they would not need a special use permit because it's over 5 acres.
Thanks.
And Commissioner Stikes?
Stites, District 7. So do they have an auxiliary structure now? I mean, I see something, but I don't know if do they already have another building?
So two things. This property, if you can see it, is a L-shaped parcel, so we can only get here unless we're invited on. And we haven't been able to go into the property, but based on the aerials that
How
we've.
come we can't get on there? Because they won't let us?
Correct.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, then I'm not in support of this.
So again, there's lots of stuff going on. There's lots of cars in this picture as an example. This was taken in 2022. And so as we understand it, there's the one primary structure.
Well, I still my time here. I will tell you, something doesn't add up. When somebody doesn't want you to come on and they want us, the governing body, to work with them and give them special, I call this treatment, right? But you're not allowing us to come onto the property to see. I don't have much use for that. So I think there's a vote, motion and a second. I'm ready to vote.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Davis?
Thank you, Mayor. Do we know does this applicant own or have they mentioned owning other animals elsewhere? Like, do they have experience with this, or is this kind of a first time go?
Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design. That has not been a part of the conversation to date, no, so I'm not sure. I don't have an answer.
Okay. And then for the denial piece, was there, just given your perspective, Mr. Hand, what was the reasoning as to why our appointees on the Planning Commission denied this particular applicant, if you recall?
Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design. So there were three things that were brought up at the City Planning Commission. There was the property dispute mentioned today. The neighbor that the lady noticed or mentioned earlier had issues with the amount of chickens. He was worried that there were too many chickens adjacent to his property, which is one issue. And then the third thing, hold on, let me just double check my notes. Oh, sorry. Yes, they were concerned with the commercial activity. I apologize.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Clerk. Did we have a question? Virtually?
No, sir.
Okay. This takes us back to our motion. We had a motion and a second to for approval of upholding the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Committee. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk roll call.
Roll call, Kane.
Aye.
Barkley.
Aye.
Stites.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend. Commissioner Townsend, you get stated again. Commissioner Townsend, one more time, please. Thank you. She said aye. McKiernan.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
It's 10-0. That motion carries.
Thank you. It takes us to our next item on the non-consent agenda. Clerk, could you read that in its entirety?
Special use permit application SP 2023-020 Shaman James. Special use permit to operate a short-term rental at 2737 South 53rd Street. Recommended for approval. Vote of 6-3 for 1 year.
Thank you. I'll turn to Mr. Hand to make an opening remarks in regards to this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design. This case was held over from the June Board of Commissioners Planning and Zoning hearing so that the applicant could discuss the issue with the neighbors. I believe it was Commissioner Markley who made that recommendation. This is a short-term rental, a new short-term rental application for a special use permit. It is non-owner occupied. It is, however, Mr. James's childhood home. This is in a citywide comp plan in the Turner area, excuse me. We've received no letters of support to date. There has been opposition and there is a NOV notice of violation for the short-term rental without a special use permit. I would just make the note, like I did last month, that staff doesn't believe that necessarily that NOV should be held against them, as we are currently in a sweep right now of all short-term rentals after the ordinance. And there are a lot of short-term rentals coming in, including on this agenda, out from the cold, so to speak. Staff recommends approval for 1 year with a maximum of 7 people on site and 3 cars off street.
Thank you. I'll ask the applicant or representative to present the application. Please state your name, address for the record.
Yes, Commissioners, good evening and thank you. My name is Shaman James. My address is 9625 Lamar Avenue, Overland Park, Kansas, 66207. I'm the owner of the property address 2737 South 53rd Terrace, Kansas City, Kansas, 66106. And this home has been in my family since 1978 when my father built it. This was carried over for last time as Commissioner Markley had asked me to approach specifically the 2 neighborhood groups who were in opposition and it wrote letters in opposition to the commissioner. I have contacted both the neighborhood groups via email and sent a pretty extensive letter explaining all the measures that that we, my family, have taken in order to make this a very viable property. I'd like to read that letter to you all here today. I've also provided this letter to a great deal of my neighbors outside of the neighborhood meeting, the ones that I've been able to directly meet with, which have been quite a few. I haven't been able to meet with all of them directly, but I'm still in efforts of doing that. So if it pleases the commission, I'll read the letter. Dear neighbor, I'm the owner of property address 2737 South 53rd Terrace, Kansas City, Kansas, 66106. As you may be aware, I have applied and petitioned to the unified government to receive a special use permit for this property to be used as a short-term rental property through the procedures identified by the unified government and the planning commission. I'm writing to you in good faith today to alleviate any concerns of the community with operations of this property as a short-term rental and to shed some light on some of the actions that have been taken in efforts to alleviate these would-be concerns. Some of these items were recommended by the city and others I have taken on my own accord. My family and I are truly making every effort to make our property a shining example of how a short-term rental property should be operated, and we are always open to additional suggestions on how we can be better for not only for our guests, but also the community as a whole. Here are the action items that have been taken so far or will be in place before booking additional guests if approved by the Planning Commission. Large and/or loud parties are strictly prohibited. Loud and/or inappropriate music is prohibited. We do not allow local groups to rent from us, which prevents the inviting of unwanted guests. We only book groups through VRBO who put guests through additional screening. We rate each one of our guests on a variety of different factors, including adherence to rules, and we will not rent to guests who have had a bad rating or who have broken rules in the past. In efforts to discourage against guests having parties, a 3-night minimum will be strictly adhered to. The limit on number of guests allowed to book the property is 7. We actively screen our guests before booking confirmation to find out the purpose of their visit to KC in efforts to prevent parties. No more than 3 cars are allowed and must be parked off-street in the garage or driveway. We have a strict hard cutoff on all music at 10 p.m. We have a strict hard cutoff on all basketball and swimming at 10 p.m. and guests are asked to move activities inside at this time. In efforts to enforce the 10 p.m. curfew, we have exterior lights on timers and they shut off a few minutes after 10 p.m. No pets are allowed under any circumstances. We have installed exterior cameras on both the front of the property and the back of the property. The cameras are monitored by Ring Video 24 hours per day. All exterior activities are recorded with notifications being sent directly to mine and my wife's phone anytime there is exterior activity. The cameras also allow us to communicate directly with our guests via the camera microphone. The cameras are hardwired to the power of the home and are always on 24/7. They can't be turned off unless power's out. I live just a short 10-minute drive away from the property and can be there on short notice if need be. And my wife is also available. We have installed netting in the back of the basketball court, which will prevent basketballs from bouncing over the fence, as requested by the city and one of our neighbors. The backyard is surrounded by a 6-foot privacy fence, which is locked at all times for both guests and neighbor safety. We've provided our neighbors with all of this information and with our direct contact information. In addition to these action items, we have also made inroads in partnering with other local businesses and eateries in both Turner and Kansas City, Kansas, to try to push business to them. So far, these include agreement with Christie's Tasty Queen in Turner to display their menu and maybe a coupon. We don't have that agreement yet to our guests on our kitchen counter. Agreement with Amigos Mexican Restaurant in Turner to display their menu and maybe a possible coupon to our guests on our kitchen counter. Agreement with the Windmill Casey Coffee Shop and Eatery, which is a small business in Turner, fairly new. And they are very excited that we were able to display their menu, and they are already working on a coupon for our guests. We have also agreed to pay for laminated menus for the Windmill, as they have not had these in the past and they would like them. We also have an agreement with Strawberry Hill and KC T-shirt shop, which is located across the street from Brits Stein Deli on 5th Street. We have worked together to create a T-shirt design, which will be available to our families and guests who stay at the home. All of these partnerships and agreements will help to drive business and outside cash flow into our community, Turner and Kansas City, Kansas. And I'm really only pushing the KCK area. I'm not pushing Johnson County, Overland Park eateries or anything like that. Looking really just to drive business to the local places. And obviously these businesses would not get this business otherwise, because these families are coming in from out of town. We encourage all of our guests to support local business, and we are open to help promote other businesses and or events that our guests might enjoy or would help to benefit others in the community. Lastly, we have created additional language that will be used with each of our guests and will be seen by them, not only initial contract provided by VRBO, but also in a welcome email that will be sent to, before their stay and via text message on the day of their arrival. Again, we are always open to additional suggestion. However, the current language that we will use is as follows. As mandated by the city and in respect to our neighbors, we must remind all guests that large and or loud parties are strictly prohibited and will not be tolerated without exception. Please keep in mind that our home is in a residential area with both nearby neighbors and their children. Please be respectful with both music, i.e. inappropriate language or gesture, and volume. We are required to have a hard cutoff on all music, basketball, and swimming at 10 p.m. And we ask guests to move activities inside at this time. Lights will also shut off at this time. Guests who do not follow these requirements will be asked to leave the property without refund. Please note that the exterior of the property is monitored via 24-hour Ring video surveillance. Thank you for your cooperation with these requirements. And that's the end of the statement to guests. In conclusion, we would ask the community and the commission to remember that we are just another neighbor here in Kansas City, Kansas, in Turner. Moreover, we are a small family of 3, just me, my wife, Amber, and my 13-year-old daughter, Maddie. We're just trying to make good at things. After my mom and my daughter's grandma passed away from cancer and left us the family home. I grew up in this neighborhood, and we have close emotional ties to the Turner community in Kansas City, Kansas. We are one of the first families who moved in to this neighborhood after my father built this home in 1978, and we are still here after all these years. My mom's only inheritance that she was able to leave our family was this home. And our initial hope for this short-term rental was that we would be able to help fund a portion of my daughter's college education. We still have this hope, but I've also become proud of the fact that this opportunity allows us to share this wonderful community and our beautiful home with others who might never know we were here otherwise. We know that these things would make my mom very proud and happy. And respectfully, we ask for your support in this endeavor and a chance to keep this hope and community pride alive and well. Thank you for reading and for listening. Shaman, Amber, and Maddie James. I will add, I'm not a buyer, a flipper, home flipper, big real estate company. This is the only VRBO we're doing. To be honest with you, I don't think my cardiologist would allow me to do another one. So it's just, it's been a process. But I do respect the commission in the process that we've gone through, and I understand the reasons why. A couple of additional things. We are having a neighborhood appreciation event that I've already planned and scheduled. On August the 13th, we're going to be having a shaved ice truck, Polar Oasis. It's going to be coming down into the cul-de-sac right in front of our home. I've already begun inviting neighbors and their children so they can come enjoy some free shaved ice on us. And then also, in closing, I have approached several of the neighbors directly, as mentioned before. I put together my own petition with the specific petition number listed, and I've received a couple of, or actually 5 total signatures in support. The petition just says, "We, the below signed of individuals, hereby sign this document in support of Unified Government Petition SP 2023-020 for Shaman Janes to continue operating property address 2737 South 53rd Terrace as a short-term rental." Significance of this, really, 2 of the neighbors that have signed this are on either side of my home. So they are directly the next door neighbors on the right and on the left. One other one is we're around a cul-de-sac, and he's at the very corner of the cul-de-sac. I think he has 2 or 3 children. 2 other neighbors I know for a fact, Wayne and Cindy Kruger, are in support of me. My text with Wayne, he was actually the one who let me know that we had the notice on my door initially. He texted me within 10 minutes of that notice being put on my door that we were in violation for something when this whole process started. I haven't been able to meet with Wayne to get the petition signed, but I know I have his support. Also, Lawrence and Tanya Hickman, who live directly 2 doors to the right of me. I've spoken with Lawrence, spoke with Tanya today. They weren't willing to sign. Some folks don't like to sign things, but Lawrence has told me specifically that he is in support. He has never had an issue with any of my guests, and that they are always respectful and not loud. He's never had an issue. So with that said, commissioners, I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now open the public hearing and ask the clerk if any notifications were received from the public who wish to express comments in favor of this item.
No notification for received, clerk.
Is there anyone present who would like to speak in favor of this item?
Seeing none.
Is there anyone joining us virtually, clerk, who would like to speak in favor of this item?
Seeing none as well.
Clerk, have you received any notifications from the public who wish to express comments in opposition of this item?
Mayor, let's step back one. We do have a hand raised for someone that's online here. I think they are in agreement here. Let's
Okay,
promote
proceed.
them.
This is Derek Shipley, property owner of 5311 Hagman, directly behind the VRBO. That was a very heartwarming speech that we just got. We would love to have a neighbor like that wants to share the experiences of growing up in this community with their neighbors. And we would definitely be more than welcoming of a family like that moving into that neighborhood and being part of this community and sharing the experiences of being part of a neighborhood. But unfortunately, that's not it. It's just shaved ice to a couple kids in the neighborhood to make amends for the issues that we're having. Unfortunately, the shaved ice will only last 1 weekend. This isn't going to be a annual fair that we're having. We want neighbors, and we hope that our representatives want us to have neighbors in community. We don't want hotels. And
I hate to interrupt you. For clarity, are you in opposition or are you in favor?
absolutely, yes, I'm in opposition.
Okay, well, stand by. We'll circle back to you. Clerk, is there anyone online that is in favor of this item?
Seeing none.
Okay. Again, we saw that person online. Okay. You're joining us virtually. You can proceed to continue.
Mr. Shipley?
So anyways, what I'm getting at is that we're not wanting to live next to hotels. And we want to live in a community where we can talk to our neighbors, interact with our neighbors, trust our neighbors to watch our house when we're gone. You know, let the dogs out, keep an eye out on our kids, and necessary to call ourselves a community. I understand that this is a great business venture for a lot of people, but Turner is not a place for business ventures of the hospitality community. Turner is a community of neighbors.
Sir, you have 1 minute remaining.
And we need representation from our people in office to make sure that we're taking care of the interest of our neighborhood and not the interest of business.
Thank you.
Seeing no others online in opposition, sir.
Thank you. I'll now close the public hearing. Petitioner, you can make, I'm sorry, we have someone in the audience that's in opposition. I'm sorry.
Hi, my name's Barb Kill. I live at 5548 Pawnee Drive, Turner, Kansas. I'm here tonight representing TCC as the co-director. The email that Mr. James read, I received at 3:09 yesterday afternoon. I had not heard a word from him before then. I'm kind of dismayed at the lack of response I've had from Mr. James. At the commission meeting last month, I believe he expressed an interest in the Turner community and becoming a part of it. During the last month, I have emailed him 3 times. I've sent him a newsletter. We gave him all of our contact information because I had received information that he didn't think he knew who we were or how to reach us. Prior to applying for the special use permit, the neighbors said that the telephone number he has given them, they have called and their calls were not returned. It seems he does not want to have contact with many of the neighbors in the immediate area or within others in the Turner area. Going forward, I think reaching Mr. James, if need be, will be a big problem. And I was wondering, did you get the email that I had sent yesterday that said to whom it may concern? That was in their packet. Okay, you did receive it. I won't repeat myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Point of order, clerk, is there anyone else virtually or in the audience that would like to speak in opposition?
Seeing no others.
I will now close the public hearing. Would the petitioner like to make any closing comments?
Ms. Kill, respectfully, I apologize if you've tried to reach me and I have not gotten back with you. I do not recall receiving any phone calls from you and or emails. So I guess it's possible if an email was sent that it went to my junk or spam. If I would have received a phone call and there was a message left, I can assure you I return all of my phone calls pretty promptly and text messages because I am a financial planner and that's required of my work. So the number that I gave you is my business line, and I have not received any messages at all, any contact information at all. And I will say the number I've tried to call Barb, and the number that I called that was provided by the planning commission, not by Barb, goes directly to a fax machine. It just beeps. But I welcome, speaking with Barb. With regards to the letter, it did take me, quite some time to pen the letter. After the last meeting, I had a couple of family trips that were already planned before that. Obviously, I was not expecting to, have the meeting be pushed forward to this planning event. So I did my best in trying to put together everything as completely as possible. My understanding, after asking for clarification last time, was that the expectation was to make sure that the community had all of the information, make sure that they knew all of the steps that we were taking in order to make this a really good property. And I think I've done that with my letter. I don't think it was an expectation for me to convince the community. I don't think that, obviously that probably is not possible at this time. But I will say, clearly, I do speak with my neighbors. I do have 5 signatures right here, neighbors right around me who are in support. That's all I had to say. I care about this community deeply. I'm happy to join the community connection. I've not received a newsletter either. I respectfully, I believe you that you said you sent it, but I have not received it.
Please make your comments to the commission.
That's all. I apologize. I think that's it. Like I said, I do apologize if she's not received, that stuff, but I did not get it, but I'm happy to, be a part of this community. I'm more than happy. I mean, I'm excited to form the relationships and things with the businesses that I already have, and I'm planning on doing more. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. We have questions from the commission. Commissioner Stites.
Stites, District 7, you can stay up here.
Yeah.
Because I want to be on your side here, but you made it awful tough.
Okay.
Because I was the one last time that said, just making some suggestions. Join up with the groups. You're saying now that you're willing and wanting to join up with those groups. It took a month to get an email sent out. If I was trying to make this happen, if it was me and I got Ms. Kill's fax machine, my next call would have been to Gunner Hand and said, Gunner, do you have a better phone number? Not set for 30 days and go, well, I tried, but it was a fax number. I would have done there. I would have went to her house. I would have mailed her a letter. I would have done anything I could have to reach her so that I could have said, I did everything I possibly could to get a hold of her so that we can be on the same page. Now, I will tell you, I also think that you're the model of what a VRBO in this county should look like, right? Your cameras, shut off times, letters. That's great. It sounds like you've done everything. My problem is that the day before you come in front of this commission is when an email goes out. And that's.
I apologize for that. That's entirely my
I
fault.
wasn't asking a question.
I'm sorry.
So, I just have it. It's just tough for me to, I want to see people have VRBOs. I'm not opposed to VRBOs at all. I think throughout our community, we have them. We got more and more coming about. I don't think we should have too many on one block or in an area or saturate them and turn it into a destination area. But I think sprinkled out through our community is not a bad thing, right? I wish there would have been some more outreach in this last 30 days. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My first question, and it goes to Director Hand. These next 3 STRs, which of these follow under the new rules that we passed? Do they all follow under the new rules?
Gunner Hand, Director of Planning and Design. Agenda under special use permits number 2 and 3 were in the new ordinances. Mr. James's case was the month before we passed the ordinance.
Okay, so he's following under the old ones. Okay. And again, to you, Mr. Hand, I see 3 planning commissioners voted no, including my appointment. What were the reasons for those three commissioners voting no?
Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design. It was due to it was due to the complaints about a specific case. There was one issue with one of the guests, and that I think concerned those three commissioners.
Okay. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Stites.
I'm back. So, and I made a note here and I didn't address it. So anytime throughout this 1 year, because this is a approval for 1 year, right? If things go haywire and Mr. James doesn't do what he says he's going to do, we have calls, there's parties till midnight, there's police calls. We, as the governing body, can revoke that SUP, correct?
Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design. Correct. The Board of Commissioners has the ability to shut down any SUP
At any time.
at any time. It is a process similar to this one, but yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bynum.
I just want clarification, Mr. Hand, on that statement. We can revoke a special use permit, but shutting them down, I think, might be an entirely different issue because they exist now without special use permits in a variety of places. So
Our Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design, our enforcement mechanism for this and all other zoning or code violations is the administrative citation process. Yes, but
Thanks.
short of going onto VRB platform under Mr. James's username and password and shutting it down, you can't reach in that far.
Okay.
now.
thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kane.
Thank you, Mayor. I've never, I wish you would have done more. But if there's a mistake or something happens, then we can go shut that down, right?
Correct.
So if we approve this for 1 year, if there's a violation in that 1 year, we can automatically shut it down.
Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design. One quick qualification, we would start the process to end the SUP, special use permit.
And I think Commissioner Stites said it. We've never seen anybody do as much work that you have. Now, you've got some communication skills that you're lacking. And then you're gonna have to get along with her and the other groups as well. And boy, you really put us in a spot. But I think we should give you a chance, so I would make a motion for approval.
Stites second.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think I've ever asked this question. I don't know if any of us have as long as I've been here. Let's say, what is the process to revoke an SUP for an STR? Does it go through both planning and us, or is it just us?
Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design. It would be heard by the Board of Commissioners. It's essentially like an appeal.
Okay.
No, I don't know anything about this game, but you can sit on my lap if that makes you feel better. Look at Daddy, there's Daddy. Hi, Daddy. Doesn't know. Oh, Daddy. Oh, he stole my stuff. Stop. That's mean. The creepers. Oh, they were mean. Yeah, the creepers.
Public, we're having
I
technical.
want my stuff back.
Get them all.
Everybody.
Okay, we're good. We're back up. All right. I believe we had a commissioner with a question, Commissioner King. I'm sorry, Commissioner Burrows has a question.
Thank you, Mayor. Gunnar, the question was asked by one of the other commissioners in reference to a complaint. I would assume those would be substantiated complaints and or substantiated violations, not just to call in to say I'm complaining about somebody even being in the house. So I would imagine it would be a violation of the SUP or a substantiated complaint, correct?
Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design, as we discussed when we were updating the short-term rental or creating the short-term rental orders, yes, we are operating under trust and verify.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Markley.
Thanks, Mayor. Short-term rentals are hard because they're new and the law hasn't really caught up. And we haven't caught up in the way that we're handling it. And even the policies we have are more or less experimental at this point because the rest of the world hasn't really caught up with this either. I think we have approved rentals that have had far more opposition and that have put in far less work than this rental has done. So I look forward to the motion. I don't think we have the votes to override, and so we're gonna go forward. And I hope that you will have your shaved ice, and I hope that you will work hard to make friends with the neighbors, and that we'll see that this will become our poster child. I would be so happy if our poster child for success were in the Turner neighborhood. So make it happen for me.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Davis.
I'll just say very, very briefly, man, this really 180 turn. And so if you could do everything in your power to be a good neighbor and a good business owner, I think we all have taken your presentation and saw how earnest you are to be a good neighbor and to be a good business owner. It's going to be our expectation that you follow up with that. So please do not make a fool out of this commission, because the Turner neighborhood and TCC, they do a lot of work. And we would love to see you partner with them and be on the team as opposed to be on the outside. And so, yes, I look forward to supporting this, but please do not make a fool out of us. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are there any comments or questions from the commission? Commissioner Stites.
This is the last thing that I want to say is, would you be able, before you leave, no matter what this outcome is, to get Miss Kill's phone number?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'll cut her a check before I leave here. Got my checkbook in my car.
La. I just want you to get her phone number. Thank you.
Just talking to join the community connection. I think there's a fee or something, I'm sure, to join.
I'm sure they would be glad to have you as a active member. There's no doubt about that.
I will be.
So thank you.
Okay, any further comments or questions from this commission? Seeing none, I'll entertain, there was a motion, I believe, from approval by Commissioner Kane and Commissioner Stites for item B1, special use permit SP 2023-020. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk roll call.
Roll call: Kane.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Stites. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Vote is 10-0. That motion carries.
Thank you. And to our planning director, as a point of order, I do apologize. I stand corrected. I overlooked your opening remarks on COZ 2023-009. So apologies for that.
No problem, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Yes. That takes us to
Thank you.
the next item on our agenda, which is B2, a request for a special use permit to operate a short-term rental at 31 South Tremont Street by Ashley Garza. The Planning Commission recommended approval for 1 year by a vote of 6-1. And I'll ask Mr. Hand to make some opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. Again, this is a short-term rental special use permit. The first for this property. This is a non-owner occupied property. The subject parcel is in the central area plan in the Russian Hill neighborhood. Staff had received no letters in support. There was opposition to this case. There was a notice of violation for the short-term rental act operating without a special use permit. Staff agrees with Planning Commission's recommendation for approval for 1 year with a maximum of 6 people and 2 cars off-street.
Thank you. I'll ask the applicant or representative to present the application. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Nate Wilson, 14512 Leavenworth Road in Baser, Kansas. I just own the property at 31 South Tremont and here to answer any questions anybody has, I guess, about it. We understand the concerns when it comes to short-term rentals regarding noise, traffic, and the potential impact on the character of the neighborhood. However, we are committed to addressing these concerns by ensuring that our guests adhere to strict rules, including maintaining low noise levels, only allowing 6 people as urban development city is wanting us to do, that stay at the home, and adhering to the parking. And I'm just open for any questions or concerns.
Thank you. I'll now open the public hearing and ask the clerk if any notifications were received from the public who wish to express their comments in favor of this item.
No notifications were received by the clerk.
Is there anyone present who would like to speak in favor of this item?
Seeing none.
Clerk, is there anyone joining us virtually who'd like to speak in favor of this item?
Seeing none as well.
Clerk, have you received any notifications from the public who wish to express their comments in opposition of the item?
No notifications were received, sir.
Is there anyone present who would like to speak in opposition of the item?
Seeing none.
Clerk, is there anyone joining us virtually who would like to speak in opposition of the item?
Seeing none as well.
I will close the public hearing. Petitioner, you can make some closing remarks.
I appreciate all of you commissioners and just look forward to bettering the community and helping the people that we bring to our Airbnb to spend money at Slaps and Split Log Coffee and everything just right down the street from us. That's all I got.
Okay. We have a question from Commissioner McCarron.
Thank you, sir. If you could just stay right there, please. So you are one of the owners of the property?
Yes, sir.
Was the property occupied before you purchased it? Did you purchase it from an occupant or was it vacant when you purchased
Vacant.
that property? It was
Vacant.
vacant. Have you improved the property since you've been there?
Well, that's it. We improved the property per the city's guidelines for short-term.
Okay,
rentals.
so I want to ask about that because in reading the minutes of the neighborhood meeting, Ashley says that you all approached the unified government to tell them I was going to use it as a short-term rental. You then got instructions to have an inspection. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And you had stipulations or a punch
Yeah,
list that
certain
resulted.
parking areas and all that.
Yeah, so you had a list of things that you needed to fix as a result of that.
Yes.
And yet at that time, we did not connect up the fact that you were going to need a special use permit to operate as a short-term rental.
Somehow we made a mistake or somebody made a mistake and we did not get the information that we needed a special use.
So this will just be an open comment to staff. I do think that we just need to double check our processes internally so that if somebody comes forward like this applicant, that we actually say, not only is there an inspection required, but there is a special use permit required before you begin operating. You've been operating as a host since July of 2022. In that time, do we have any complaints from neighbors on record? Do we have any police calls for service to this address? Do we have any code violations at this address? So in the absence of that, it would appear that the guests at this address have been good neighbors in terms of
Yeah.
noise and trash and parking and disruption. They've been good neighbors. The neighborhood meeting minutes say that you have strict house rules that you provide to your guests in terms of how to be a good neighbor. Is that true?
Yes.
And no complaints or
Yeah,
violations.
we've had no issues or violations or disturbances to speak of. Yeah.
And I noticed
We have
it was-
cameras as well at the front and the back, so we can count the people that go in and out of the door.
Okay, and so you're aware of the stipulation about maximum number of guests and about the fact that parking must be off-street.
Yep.
And you've operated now for a year with guests with no complaints so far. And I do notice that the neighbor who did come to the neighborhood meeting, who had questions, as noted in your minutes, did not then come to the planning commission meeting on July 10th. On the basis of all the information I have at my disposal, I would move to approve the recommendation of the planning commission.
Second, Bynum.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commissioner have any comments or questions? Okay, there is a motion to approve item B2, special use permit SP 2023-026. Motion and a second. Is there any further? Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk roll call.
Roll call Kane. Aye. Markley.
Aye.
States. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows. Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you. That takes us to our next item under the non-consent agenda. It's item B3, a request for a special use permit to operate a short-term rental at 2602 Essex by Alexandra Sells. The planning commission recommended approval for 1 year by a vote of 5-1. Staff, Mr. Hannick, you can make some opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Resign. Again, we have another short-term rental special use permit. This would be their first special use permit if approved this evening. It is not owner occupied. This is in the Rosedale area plan. Staff received no letters in support, no letters in opposition. There are no notices of violation on this property. Staff agrees with Planning Commission, recommend approval for 1 year with a couple of additional conditions. Specifically that they're limited to 5 people at the property at one time and 2 off-street parking spaces, that they reduce the front yard fence to the required 4 feet height, and that they provide sidewalk repairs and a UG standard code required, driveway apron. I'd also note that on this block, as you can see in this map, there are 2 other unpermitted short-term rentals that have been caught into the short-term rental list that we're currently on. If this were approved, those other 2 would need to shut down. They would not get an SUV.
Thank you. I'll ask the applicant or representative to present the application. Mr. President. Be present online, clerk.
Seeing none.
Okay, I'll now open the public hearing. Ask the clerk, have you received any notifications from the public in favor of this item?
No comments were received.
Is there anyone present who would like to speak in favor of this item?
Seeing none.
Clerk, is there anyone joining us virtually who would like to speak in favor of this item?
Seeing none as well.
Clerk, have you received any notifications from the public who wish to express their comments in opposition of this item?
No notifications were received, sir.
Is there anyone present who would like to speak in opposition of this item?
Seeing none.
Clerk, is there anyone joining us virtually who would like to speak in opposition to this item?
Seeing none as well.
I will now close the public hearing. I'll give the petitioner one opportunity again to make closing remarks if that individual is available.
Seeing none, sir.
Okay. We have questions from the commission. Commissioner Kane.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so Gunnar, if this passes, then when you have 2 other illegal ones, which I'm having a fit right now with that in my district, not following directions no matter what the unified government does. And well, I think we need to shut down the illegal ones all across the community because all they're doing is wreaking havoc for the people that live by them. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commissioner have comments, or questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. There's a motion to approve item B3 special use permit SP 2023-030. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk roll call.
Roll call Kane. Aye. Markley.
Aye.
States. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows. Aye. Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
That takes us to our last item under the non-consent agenda, which is items C1, an update from Mr. Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design, regarding the ongoing citywide comprehensive plan. I'll turn it over to Mr. Hand for his presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design. We wanted to take a minute this evening to give you all an update on Plan KCK, the update to the citywide comprehensive plan. Quickly, I will defer to the head of our advanced planning division, Ms. Alyssa Marcy.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Alyssa Marcy. I'm the Long Range Planner for Planning and Urban Design, and I'm going to give you a brief update on Plan KCK, our citywide comprehensive plan. So Plan KCK really began in 2022 when we adopted GODOT Strategic Mobility Plan, which functions as a comprehensive transportation strategy and will therefore be the transportation chapter of Plan KCK. There's other components to Plan KCK that we're working on currently. These include our economic development and housing strategies, as well as our historic preservation plan. And we're also incorporating initiatives from other departments, such as the Health Department's Community Health Improvement Plan and UG Forward. So all of these elements will formulate Plan KCK, which is a vision for the next 25 years of our city with a 10-year implementation plan. It will also function as an umbrella for future policies and plans for our zoning code update, as Director Hand has mentioned, and to help prioritize projects for implementation. So I've mentioned a few of the elements. Again, this is really an update of our 2008 citywide master plan, which really functioned more of as a land use plan. And we will be updating our land use plan. We're going to amend all of the various land use categories that we have in neighborhoods that aren't consistent, and unifying those to all the same kind of category names. But we're also going to cover topics that we've never done that will be first for the unified government. One of those is environmental justice and climate change, which is huge for us when we're, in an environment where the federal government has millions of dollars available for environmental justice and resiliency initiatives. And further, all of these topics that you see here will be developed through these lenses of health, sustainability, equity, and access, and that will really make sure that we're holding true to these values for each of these topics. So in terms of engagement, we started in late April with a resiliency roundtable, and that was really to talk about what resiliency means to our community. And then we also held 5 pizza and planning meetings. And this was really a first for us because they were internal staff meetings that we flipped inside out and invited the public to join us for those meetings. And so that gave us a lot of feedback on how to structure our engagement over the summer. And a lot of the feedback we heard from residents was go to us, don't ask us to come to you, right? So we have a lot of events that we're kind of holding as milestones where we're still asking the public to come to us, but we're doing a lot of outreach where we're going to existing events, existing meetings, we're holding focus groups. We're having a lot of multimedia components, bilingual surveys, an online website. We have a bi-weekly email that has over 520 subscribers and is continuing to grow. So as we continue our outreach over the summer, we'll culminate in a final outreach event in October, and that's where we'll present all of our draft strategies. So really, today I just wanted to inform you of what's happening right now that we could use your assistance with. We have a small business survey that's available through August 5th. That's closing because on August 14th, we're having the Community Prosperity Summit. And that is where you'll hear a presentation from our consultant on the draft economic development strategies. And we'll also be covering tools that the community can use for intentional investment, such as community benefit agreements. So that's closing on the 5th. We'd like to get as much feedback as we can. We also are doing a Young KCK Artist Competition, and this is really an attempt to reach our youth. It's for 21 and under. It's multimedia, but that's really trying to get them to think about their future in 25 years, right? Because in 25 years, they're going to be, older, might have their own family. It's going to be an entirely different space. So how can we get them to dream about that? And that will end slightly before the October 7th event, which will be our final engagement. And just to close. So really my ask for all of you is to go online to our website, wycokck.org/plan-KCK. You can see all of the places we're going, all of the spaces we've been invited to. You know, we've been able to reach groups that we haven't before, like our refugee community, where we've had a meeting that's been in Burmese, Swahili, and Chin. We've had our first Spanish only event and hope to have another, but we know that our community is really diverse and it covers a lot of different areas. So I would ask each of you if there's one event or meeting that you can think of that you want us to go to, that we can get feedback from, please reach out to me. That goes for everyone sitting in this room here too. There's cards over there if you want to take it with QR codes to our website. And that's our update so far. Any questions?
Commissioner Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. You all are doing fantastic work with this. And so kudos to you, Gunnar, and Elizabeth. I've heard nothing but positive responses from constituents, and they're really, really excited to be valued and listened to and to be included in this process. For the artist competition, which I think is amazing. Have you all engaged school districts, right? Private schools? Has that process started just to get this message out? We know that school is starting here very, very soon. And so that's a great opportunity to engage students in this process.
Yeah, no, we actually just started reaching out with all of those back to school days events that are happening. So we're planning to be there for those and also just sharing this information with as many people as possible. If you have any specific people in mind, we'd love to hear that. We're also partnering with Third Friday Art Walk with this competition as well.
Yeah, no, that would be great. Well, yeah, school districts, youth-based organizations. I know Turner's having a back to school bash next week and stuff. And so I would just encourage that as much as possible. But thank you all for the work that you're doing. This is great.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question. If you could back it up to your first slide. Oh, I'm sorry, the second one.
This one?
The next one, I'm sorry. I guess I'm looking at and those are great. And I concur with this commission and public that this is great work. I have no criticism. This is awesome work. It's just, if I just had, it's more of a question. How does equity in the delivery of goods and services throughout Wyandotte County relate into this? I know you're trying to reach diverse groups, but when you talk about long-term planning, and then you look back historically, we had a housing report, we had a health report, we had a heat report that was given last year that really speaks to decades of redlining, discriminatory practices, racism, disinvestment and disenfranchisement of parts of this community that has caused pockets of poverty and hopelessness and food deserts that exist. So as part of this long-range planning, how does all this fit into that? And should equity and inclusion be a part of this to ensure that we're also focusing on the equitable delivery of goods, services, and resources throughout the entire community?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really the point of having equity as a lens. The reason why we chose these lenses is because we couldn't just have a chapter on equity, right? It relates to every single thing that you see on this slide and every decision that we make in relation to those things. I think it also goes back to the idea of the Justice 40 communities and environmental justice, right? We have all of these historical challenges that we haven't properly addressed. And yet the federal government is starting to recognize that we have those historical challenges and they're offering funding opportunities. So how we try to unify what's available to fund projects with what we are seeing in our community, I think is going to be a huge piece of this. I think another thing that I'll add too is even in our discussions with economic development, for example, you can look at our community and pick out the pockets of where development is happening, right? But it's also important to look at where is the absence of activity and how do we change that? So that's a lot of our thought process as we look at each individual topic, right? Is to make sure that equity is involved with every decision that we make.
Thank you. And when you talk about economic development, is a conversation that would be had, because I know you're still at the early stages. And I know I'm having conversations. I believe that Commissioner Johnson is having conversations with his task force as well. But a WMBE policy as well, to make sure that women and minorities and entrepreneurs and small businesses have a shot at getting at the table, getting contracts and procurements and those things, and making sure that if they're at the table, they're not treated like a napkin. They're treated as a partner that is given the same opportunities as historically everyone else. They may have power influence within the halls of this unified government.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely be considering that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Stites.
Stites District 7. The only thing that I would have to say on that is thank you for everything that you've done. I think we're heading in the right direction here. Is that when it's we say across this county, and Mayor, you even brought it up, saying changes across the county, yet this isn't a scope of plan for Wyandotte County. It's a scope of plan for KCK, which really makes the other two cities that are in our county, Bonner Springs and Edwardsville, feel once again left out, like they're not part of the unified government. So I'm not sure if that if there could be a KCK / Wyandotte County or just Wyandotte County, or why it was just named KCK and not Wyandotte County.
Yeah, and some of those things relate to just what we have within our jurisdictional reach in some cases. However, I will say there are countywide components that are naturally just ingrained in this. For example, the GoDOT Strategic Mobility Plan is countywide because we provide countywide transportation services. So we are engaging with Edwardsville and Bonner Springs still for those things that do cross those boundaries. And one example of that is in Edwardsville, we're launching their new micro transit system. So we'll be out there Autumn Fest and doing outreach there. So as much as we can do work in Edwardsville and Bonner Springs, we are. And I don't know if Director Hand has anything to add to that, but.
I would just say it has always been our intent, and we think we have been intentional in this effort, very similar as Ms. Marcy mentioned, just like GoDOT, where we took a partnership approach with all the municipalities in Wyandotte County. That's how this process also started. So I do apologize for the branding if there's some confusion on that, but it's not countywide because there are citywide components, namely land use, that we cannot tell them what to do. But a good example would be our economic development strategy. We're not trying to tell Edwardsville and Bonner Springs what their economic development strategy is. We want to know what it is so that we're operating and working together and rowing in the same direction. So we've reached out to them on those components so that our strategy develops with it. Again, public health's a tough one, right? Because that's countywide and there's other stuff like that as well. So.
Well, I can appreciate that, but also parks. Parks is another thing that's countywide, right? Not just KCK, Wyandotte County Park. I just think I would like to think moving forward that when we look at branding and those types of things that we look at when we're really trying to make things feel like it's countywide and that all cities are in Wyandotte County are included, that that reflects that in the naming also.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bynum has a question.
Thank you. To Commissioner Stites' point, I would agree with that. Commissioner, I'm curious, do you know, for example, City of Edwardsville or City of Bonner, do they have a current master plan for their cities?
Yeah.
So it would be good, you know, maybe to fold those in. You wouldn't want to take away from their autonomy in creating their own master plans. Maybe there's a way to merge and reach out and make sure that we're hearing those strategic goals in their plans. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stites.
Okay, I'll make this real quick. And here's a perfect example. Edwardsville has approved a project that will go on 98th Street from Kansas Avenue up to I-70, right? And I-70 is the border between the city limits of Edwardsville, right? On the other side of I-70, the same road is Wyandotte County KCK. right? So that would be the perfect meshing together where you could say, so we're gonna have this nice 4-lane 98th Street sidewalks and curbs and gutters all the way up to I-70. But go another 100 yards when you cross under I-70, then it changes back to just 2-lane road. So that would be that master plan where we're making sure that we are meshing together on a plan moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I'm slightly confused on the scope. Is this a city plan or a county-wide plan?
Gunner Hand, Director of Planning and Design. Technically, it's both because we are both.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. And the only reason why I asked that question is because on one hand, yes, we need the integration, but there are very specific things like the budget where we do want to make those distinctions on what is county, right, operating and what is city operations. The budget is a great example of that. And so that's why I'm trying to get some clarity there. If we can integrate it, that's fine. But I would hate for the work that we're doing to get lost or for it to get so wide that we don't necessarily make the impact that we're trying to make. And so, yeah, thank you all for the work that you're doing.
I would just say if there's no other comments, thank you for the feedback and direction. That's great. We'll take that with us and do better.
Thank you all so much and appreciate your work. This takes us and concludes the planning and zoning portion of tonight's meeting. We will now move to the regular portion of our agenda. And it takes us to the regular consent agenda. Do any members of the commission or county administrator wish to set aside any items on the regular consent agenda? If no item is set aside, all items on the regular consent agenda will be voted on by one vote. I'll now entertain a motion. for
McKiernan,
approval.
move to approve all as submitted.
There is a motion for approval and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk roll call.
Roll call, Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Stites. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows. Townsend. Commissioner Townsend. McKiernan.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
But it's 8-0, that motion carries. Okay, 9-0, that motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioner Townsend. That now concludes the portion of our regular meeting, and I'm going to adjourn us in that capacity. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment as the
Move to
Board of
adjourn.
Commission and call us back to order as the Land Bank Board of Trustees. There's a motion. I need a second.
Markley second.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call, clerk.
Roll call, Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Stites. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows. Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
9-0, that motion carries.
Thank you. Do any members of the Commissioner and County Administrator wish to set aside any item on the Land Bank consent agenda?
Davis moves to approve.
McKiernan, second.
Okay, there is a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Roll call, Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Stites. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows. Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
9-0, that motion carries.
Thank you. We have no further business on tonight's agenda. I will now entertain a motion to
Bynum,
adjourn.
so moved.
Davis second.
Okay, there is a motion and a second for adjournment. Clerk roll call.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Stites. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows. Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Motion is 9-0. Vote is